Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're wading into something that honestly at first glance feels a bit like a
A DARPA experiment gone rogue.
yeah, exactly, or maybe a chapter out of some sci-fi novel about super soldiers.
Right.
But as we started peeling back the layers of these source documents, we realized pretty quickly that we aren't looking at fiction at all. We're looking at a very specific, very grounded proposal for the future of the Indian military.
It really does sound completely futuristic when you just read the headlines.
Oh, for sure.
You see terms like personal military cognitive staff officer.
Which sounds like Iron Man's Jarvis.
It does. But when you actually look at the architecture, the nuts and bolts of it, it's surprisingly pragmatic. It is deeply grounded in the gritty, everyday reality of what it means to serve today.
Right. And to set the stage for you listening, we aren't talking about, a robot dog carrying a machine gun here.
No, no hardware like that.
We're talking about a software ecosystem. It's a massive stack of documents detailing an AI ecosystem and a lifecycle framework that's been designed specifically for the Indian military context. And the scope here, it is massive.
It is massive. And the reason I say it's pragmatic, despite the scale, is because of the problem it's actually trying to solve.
Yeah.
If you look at the source material, it starts with a premise that is just, well, it's hard to argue with. The modern military career is fundamentally broken by information overload.
That's the real why behind all this, isn't it? It's not just tech for tech's sake.
Exactly. Think about the modern battlefield, or honestly, even just modern barracks life.
The admin side.
Yes. You have these rigid hierarchies that literally date back to the 19th century, and they are colliding head-on with 21st century data streams.
Right.
You have high-stakes decision-making, instant media scrutiny, incredibly complex legal frameworks, and just a flood of administrative data.
It's too much for one person.
It is. The human brain, even a highly trained military brain, has a hard limit on cognitive bandwidth.
And the documents argue that traditional training models, they just aren't cutting it anymore.
No, they aren't.
They say we are currently producing trained officers, people who know the drills, they know the protocols, they know exactly how to salute.
Right.
But the argument here is that the modern world requires thinking officers.
That distinction right there, that is the absolute core of this entire deep dive.
Trained versus thinking.
Yes. Trained means you can execute a known process perfectly. But thinking means you can navigate an unknown chaos.
And chaos is the default state now.
Exactly. So the goal of this entire ecosystem is to reduce what they call cognitive friction.
How so?
By democratizing institutional knowledge. Basically giving a 24-year-old lieutenant the exact same access to high-level insights as a general.
Wow.
And by doing that, you create a continuous learning loop. The framework specifically describes it as, let me check my notes.
Yeah.
Plan, execute, evaluate, reflect, and improve.
Okay, so the solution proposed isn't just, let's give everyone a ChatGPT account.
No, not at all.
It's a highly structured portfolio of specialized tools. We're talking specifically configured GPTs and Google Gems that are tailored to support a soldier from the very moment they, look at a recruitment poster all the way until they're tending their garden in retirement.
It's a true cradle-to-grave approach. Or, using their terms, aspirant to veteran.
Right.
It acknowledges something really fundamental.
Right.
A soldier isn't just a unit of production for the state. They are a human being on a 30 or 40-year journey.
So let's do exactly that. Let's walk through this life cycle.
Sounds good.
We're going to trace the career of a hypothetical Indian officer. Let's call him Rohan.
We'll
see how this AI ecosystem changes his life at every single stage of the journey.
Let's dive in.
Phase 1, the aspirant.
Right.
So this is before Rohan is even in uniform. He's maybe 17 or 18 years old. He's watching movies, hearing stories from an uncle.
The romantic phase.
Exactly. And the documents make a really interesting point here, that most people join the military based entirely on myths.
They do. And frankly, that is a dangerous foundation for a 30-year career.
Because reality hits hard.
It does. You see the glory, right? You see the crisp uniform, the fighter jets pulling G's in Top Gun, or the dramatic border battles in Bollywood movies.
Right.
What you don't see is the paperwork. You don't see the extreme isolation. You don't understand the highly specific cultural differences between the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force.
Yeah. To a civilian, it's all just the military.
Exactly. And you certainly don't see the months spent away from your family in a non-combat zone just waiting around.
And this is where the very first tool in the stack appears. It's called the Indian Military GPT.
Yes.
Now, looking at the capabilities listed in the source, this isn't just a chatbot that answers, how many push-ups do I need to do to pass the test?
No, that would just be a glorified FAQ page. The Indian Military GPT is designed as a simulation engine. It allows our guy, Rohan, to actually simulate life in the different arms of the military. It's primarily trying to assess his temperament.
Which makes sense. Temperament is key. Because if you're a guy who loves tinkering with complex electronics, but you absolutely hate physical confrontation.
You belong in signals or engineering, not infantry.
Exactly. Or maybe love the outdoors, but you get claustrophobic. So a submarine is a terrible idea.
A massive difference in daily lived reality.
And the military obviously doesn't want that mismatch either.
Because a miserable officer is an ineffective officer.
Right.
This tool forces deep ethical reflection early on. It asks the user point blank, why do you want to serve?
And then it actually challenges their answer.
It does. It models a 20 to 30-year career trajectory based on their inputs. It shows you, okay, Rohan, if you join the Armored Corps today, here's what your life realistically looks like at 25. Here it is at 35, and here it is at 45. Here are the mobility implications for your future spouse and kids.
That's incredible. It's basically showing you the entirely unsexy parts of the job before you even sign the contract.
It's informed consent.
Yeah, it's like a terms and conditions document for your actual life.
And it uses hard data, not just vibes. It clearly differentiates between what a short service commission looks like versus a permanent commission.
So we can map it all out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Am I built for combat? Am I better suited for a highly technical role? Or maybe a staff appointment?
Yeah.
It's designed to prevent that awful tragedy of waking up 5 years in and realizing you are in the completely wrong profession.
It aligns expectation with reality before the oath is even taken.
Precisely.
Okay, so Rohan uses the Indian Military GPT. He understands the reality. He applies. He passes the grueling SSB interviews, and he gets into the academy.
Right.
Be it the NDA, IMA, Naval Academy, or AFA. Now the game completely changes. He's no longer an outsider looking in. He is a cadet.
And the focus shifts dramatically. It goes from should I join to academic reinforcement and building a professional identity.
Because the academy is where they tear down the civilian to build the officer.
Exactly. It is a relentlessly high-pressure environment specifically designed to test human limits.
And the documents list two primary tools for this phase. There's the Insert GPT and the Critical Thinking GPT.
Yes.
Now, Insert GPT seems fairly straightforward. It's tutoring cadets in military history, geopolitics, technical subjects. Basically a super-powered study buddy.
It is, but it's a highly contextualized study buddy.
How do you mean?
Well, it's not just teaching generic physics. It's teaching the physics of ballistics.
Oh, okay.
It's not just teaching historical dates. It's teaching the strategy behind those historical battles. Connects the academic theory to the practical military application immediately.
That makes a lot of sense.
But honestly, the real game changer here, the one that really caught my eye in the documents, is the Critical Thinking GPT.
Oh, I agree. I spent some time reading the prompt engineering notes provided for this one. It talks heavily about red team thinking drills,
Yeah.
which to me sounds incredibly intense for a classroom of young cadets.
It is intense, but it is vital. Think about a traditional military academy environment.
Very strict.
Extremely strict. In that setting, critical thinking can actually be deeply risky for a cadet.
Really?
Well, yeah. If an instructor barks an order or states a tactical fact, and a young cadet raises his hand to challenge it.
Oh, that's insubordination?
Exactly. It's often seen as a challenge to authority. The hierarchy is absolute.
Yours is not to reason why, right? That'll charge of the light brigade adage.
Precisely. But the reality of modern warfare is that you absolutely need officers who can reason why.
Right, because the battlefield is too fluid.
You need officers who can anticipate what the enemy is thinking. You need a guy who can spot a fatal flaw in a plan before it gets his men killed.
And the Critical Thinking GPT helps with that.
It provides a perfectly safe digital sandbox for it. It teaches these cadets how to argue effectively. It forces them to look at a tactical problem from the adversary's perspective.
So it's essentially training the brain to disagree productively.
It's training the brain to escape groupthink.
Wow.
It helps them internalize the honor code and the regimental culture, but it does it while keeping an active questioning mind.
So they aren't just robots.
Exactly. It's teaching them. Follow the order because you understand the tactical necessity of it, not just because a loud man yelled at you.
That builds intellectual resilience right alongside the physical resilience they're getting on the parade ground.
It is a subtle but absolutely massive shift in military pedagogy. It transforms the cadet from a passive vessel taking in instructions into an active tactical analyst.
That's fascinating. Also, just briefly mentioned in the section is the introduction of the Indian military law GPT.
Right, but just the absolute basics at this stage.
Yeah, they aren't lawyers yet.
No, but they need to start understanding the legal framework they are stepping into. It's about planting the very first seeds of the law of armed conflict and basic service ethos.
Just knowing the fundamental difference between a lawful and an unlawful command.
Exactly. That starts right there in the academy.
All right, so Rohan survives the academy. The pipping ceremony happens. The stars go on the shoulders. He is officially a lieutenant.
It's a huge moment.
He gets sent to his first unit. And we are now entering phase 2, the subaltern years.
I love how the source documents describe this transition. They use a very evocative phrase, the shock of service.
The shock of service. Yeah, I think anyone who has started a really high-pressure corporate job can relate a little bit, but the military version seems, well, distinct.
It's a cliff edge.
Yeah.
You go from the academy, which is physically and mentally grueling, yes, but it is incredibly structured.
Someone tells you when to wake up.
When to wake up, when to eat, exactly what uniform to wear to the minute, but then you arrive at a unit.
And suddenly you're the boss.
Suddenly, you are the one in charge. You have a platoon of 30-odd men looking at you for orders. You're responsible for their actual lives, millions of rupees worth of equipment, and their overall well-being.
But at the same time, you are literally the lowest rung on the commissioned officer ladder?
Exactly. You are the absolute bottom of the food chain while simultaneously carrying immense responsibility.
And then there's the paperwork. The documents heavily emphasize the sheer volume of the administrative burden placed on these young officers. It frankly seems disproportionate.
It is the defining reality of the subaltern stage.
Well.
Yes. You are completely overwhelmed by administrative duties. We're talking mess accounts, processing leave applications for your men, endless equipment audits, managing the unit canteen.
Just running a small business, basically.
While also needing immediate tactical competence.
Right.
You absolutely cannot mess up on the field during a live fire exercise. But you also cannot mess up the audit filing in the office, or you face disciplinary action.
That creates a tremendous amount of stress.
A massive cognitive load.
And this is where the ecosystem introduces the concept of the digital adjutant.
Yes.
The documents outline tools here like the Division Commander GPC, and they expand the use of the Indian military law GPT. Now, let's look at Division Commander GPT. That is a very lofty name for a tool given to a 23-year-old lieutenant.
It is a heavy title, but the logic behind it is entirely sound. It's acting as a synthetic mentor.
Because asking a real mentor is hard.
Exactly. A young officer very often hesitates to ask his actual superior for help because he doesn't want to look incompetent.
Right. The imposter syndrome is real. I should know this already.
I just graduated academy. I'm supposed to be a leader.
So they struggle in silence.
Which inevitably leads to mistakes.
Fatal ones sometimes. The Division Commander GPT breaks that silence safely. Let's say Rohan has to plan a small routine operation, maybe a night patrol or moving a convoy through a tricky sector.
Okay.
He can draft his entire plan and feed it into the AI. The AI then generates multiple courses of action, or COA, in military speak. So it's acting as a reality check. Here is my plan. What glaring error did I miss?
Exactly. It's red teaming his plan before he ever submits it to his actual commanding major. It gives him a private chance to fix the holes.
The document mentions it assists in conducting risk assessments.
Right. It's literally like having a grizzled, seasoned colonel standing over your shoulder, quietly whispering, "Hey, kid, you completely forgot to account for the heavy rain affecting the VHF radio comms, or you haven't planned a secondary extraction route if the primary road is blocked."
That is incredibly powerful. But I want to pivot back to the administrative side for a second, the digital adjutant aspect.
Yeah.
The source claims this tool can automate disciplinary cases and handle complex welfare issues. That sounds highly sensitive, automating a disciplinary note for a soldier.
It is incredibly sensitive. But you have to look at the reality of the bottleneck here.
Right.
If a soldier under Rohan's command has a serious welfare issue, maybe there's a pay dispute with the central system, or a complex legal problem back in his home village.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. The young officer has to draft a formal letter to the relevant higher authority, to get it sorted. If that lieutenant is exhausted, overworked, or simply doesn't know the exact bureaucratic format required.
That letter just sits in an inbox for 3 weeks.
Exactly. It sits on a desk. And the soldier is the one who suffers.
His pay is delayed, his family is stressed, and unit morale drops. The soldier feels completely ignored by his command.
Precisely. The AI steps in and helps draft that highly specific documentation instantly.
So it gets the ball rolling.
It ensures the military format is flawless,
Yep.
the references to regulations are accurate, and the tone is perfectly appropriate. It massively accelerates the bureaucratic process.
To be clear, though, it's not making the decision on the discipline or the welfare.
No, absolutely not. It's not deciding the outcome. It is simply greasing the wheels of the process. It's handling the paperwork of the command, not the judgment of the command.
Got it. And the key takeaway the document highlights for this specific phase is that it accelerates professional maturity. Because Rohan spends way less time fighting with margin settings in Microsoft Word and more time actually talking to his men or thinking about the tactical mission.
It buys him time, and time is the single most precious commodity a lieutenant doesn't have.
That and sleep.
Exactly. It probably buys him an extra hour of sleep a night, which is genuinely tactically significant. Fatigue makes cowards of us all, as the old saying goes.
Reducing fatigue is a literal combat multiplier.
Absolutely.
Moving on. Let's say Rohan has done his hard time as a subaltern. He's climbed the ranks successfully. He is a major or maybe a lieutenant colonel now.
A critical juncture.
We're entering phase 3, the strategist. This covers professional military education, PME, and mid-career command roles.
This is the major pivot point in a career. This is where that concept of the thinking officer really truly has to shine.
Right.
He's likely attending prestigious institutions like the Defense Services Staff College in Wellington, the War Colleges, or the College of Defense Management.
He's stepping off the tactical battlefield.
Yes, stepping away from the daily tactical grind to start thinking about the massive theater-level big picture.
Now, the ecosystem notes a specific risk at this stage. They call it academic stagnation. The idea that these elite courses can sometimes just devolve into tick box exercises.
Which is a very common criticism of PME worldwide, not just in India.
You just go through the motions.
You show up, you write the standard papers, you pass the exams, you get the credential, and you get promoted. But the question is, are you actually learning anything new?
Are you pushing the envelope?
Right. And this is where the Critiquing GPT is designed to completely disrupt that complacency.
Critiquing GPT. I have to say, I love the name. It sounds exactly like a grumpy, tenured professor in a box.
And that is exactly what you want. In a high-level academic setting, you don't just want a generative AI that writes a paper for you.
That defeats the purpose.
It does. You want a tool that viciously tears your arguments apart.
So how does it work for Rohan?
Let's say Rohan is writing his staff college thesis on, drone swarms in high-altitude warfare in the Himalayas.
Very topical.
He feeds his draft into the Critiquing GPT. The tool actively red teams his core argument. It generates robust counter-arguments.
Like what?
It might spit back. Rohan, you assumed complete air superiority in Chapter 2. What if you don't have it? What if the adversary effectively jams your command signal at 15,000 feet?
Oh, wow. It forces him to defend his thesis before he even submits it.
Exactly. The source mentions it scaffolds literature reviews and pushes heavily for genuine institutional contribution.
Meaning he can't just recycle old ideas.
Right. It ensures that the paper he produces actually adds tangible value to the military's broader body of knowledge and for his absolute academic rigor.
But eventually he leaves the classroom.
He does.
He goes back out into command. And now the stakes are literal life and death on a very large scale.
Brigade or battalion level.
The documents introduce 2 absolute heavy hitters here. The Lodestar Organizational Decisions Stress Test and the Cognitive Security GPT.
Lodestar. This is arguably the crown jewel of the entire strategic suite.
It sounds intense.
It's an agentic workflow specifically designed for decision stress testing.
Okay, break that down for me. What exactly does a stress test look like for a high-level military decision? Is it just running war games?
It's running war games on steroids. Let's say Colonel Rohan is planning a massive deployment of his battalion to a highly volatile new sector.
Lots of moving parts.
Thousands of moving parts. He inputs his finalized plan into Lodestar. The AI then aggressively models the worst-case scenarios.
It looks for what can break.
It audits his foundational assumptions. It actively hunts for cognitive blind spots that a human mind might gloss over simply because of optimism bias.
Give me a concrete example of a blind spot it might catch.
Okay, A human commander, under pressure, might focus intensely on the logistics, the hard stuff, getting the fuel, the ammo, the trucks.
Right, the kinetic elements.
Exactly. But Lodestar might process the plan and flag something lateral. Colonel, you have routed your primary supply convoy through a specific civilian village during the exact dates of a major local religious festival.
Oh, man.
This will absolutely cause friction. Have you accounted for severe civilian unrest? Have you accounted for the massive traffic jam that will delay your critical ammo arrival by 4 hours?
The second-order consequences.
Because like I said, it's moving beyond just what happens when we do X to asking what happens because X happened.
It's simulating the ripple effects in the pond.
Yes. Ripple effects that a human brain, especially one operating under severe stress and sleep deprivation, might completely miss. It forces the commander to confront hard questions before the first truck ever starts its engine.
That is incredible. And what about the cognitive security GPT? Because that sounds like it's dealing strictly with the information war.
It is, because modern commanders aren't just fighting in the physical terrain anymore. They are fighting fiercely in the information terrain.
The digital battlefield.
This tool maps active threats in the information space. We've seen in every recent global conflict how a single 10-second smartphone video clip can literally alter the strategic landscape of a war.
So if a negative incident happens on the ground, a collateral damage incident, for example,
The cognitive security GPT instantly helps prepare the command's response. It analyzes how will this specific incident play out in local media versus international media.
how will the enemy spin it?
Exactly. How is the adversary likely to use this for propaganda? And internally, how do we draft the specific circulars to keep our own troops informed and stop rumors from destroying morale?
So it's ensuring that the commander isn't just winning the kinetic firefight, but totally losing the broader narrative war.
It bridges the very complex gap between being a tactical soldier and being a strategic statesman.
And frankly, in the Indian context specifically, with decades of complex counterinsurgency operations, that line is already incredibly blurry.
Extremely blurry. A minor tactical mistake by a squad can become a massive strategic nightmare on the nightly news within an hour. This tool tries to foresee that exact trajectory and helps the commander navigate the gray zone of modern warfare safely.
Now, while Rohan is out there dealing with all this high-level life-or-death strategy, we have to remember he's still a human being.
Very much so.
He has a family, he has personal finances, he probably has legal worries back home. And this brings us to phase 4, the human element.
The source notes are remarkably clear and empathetic here. They explicitly state, personal stability affects professional performance.
It's a very simple equation.
It is. If Colonel Rohan is deeply worried about a property lawsuit back in his hometown, or if he's stressed because he hasn't planned his retirement savings,
He's not focused on the enemy.
he is not 100% dialed into the mission. A massive chunk of his cognitive bandwidth is being eaten up by personal anxiety.
Let's talk about the legal side of this first.
Okay.
Because we mentioned the Indian military law GPT back in phase 2.
Right for the young officers.
But now in phase 4, it seems much more advanced.
It scales with the rank. In phase 2, it was just about learning basic rules and drafting admin notes. Now in phase 4, it's about high-level governance.
Okay.
It helps senior officers clarify the extremely nuanced difference between administrative action and judicial action. It deeply analyzes the complex principles of natural justice.
And this is crucial, right? Because senior military officers often have to sit as actual judges in military courts, in courts martial.
Exactly, and this is a heavy burden. They're not trained career legal judges, yet they hold real judicial power.
They literally hold a soldier's career and their liberty in their hands.
The AI steps in to rigorously guide them through the intricate legal process. It ensures procedural correctness so that a fair trial happens and justice is actually done without legal loopholes getting the case thrown out later.
But the document says it handles the ethical side, too.
It does. It simulates highly complex use-of-force cases. It helps the senior officer navigate that incredibly agonizing balance between human rights versus military discipline.
It acts as an ethical sounding board.
Yes, the commander can query. I need to punish this soldier for severe dereliction of duty, but he has very real mitigating circumstances at home. What is the historical precedent here? What is the legally fair path? What does the rigid law say? But more importantly, what does justice demand?
That is a heavy tool. But then we pivot to the financial side, what the documents call the hidden stressors.
The silent killers of morale.
They list the algo trading GPT and the agri GPT. Now, algo trading GPT seems pretty straightforward.
It is investment diversification, accurate pension projection.
Because financial literacy can be an issue.
Financial literacy is often surprisingly low in the military because personnel are so heavily insulated inside cantonments for decades. The state provides everything.
So they don't learn how to invest.
Right. This tool helps secure their financial future, making absolutely sure their money is working hard for them in the markets while they're out working for them.
Okay, I get that. But Agri-GPT. This literally stopped me in my tracks when I read the outline. Why on earth is there a specialized farming AI built into a high-tech military cognitive ecosystem? It just seems entirely out of left field.
It definitely seems that way until you really understand the deep sociology of the Indian military.
Okay, explain that to me.
This tool is actually a brilliant example of achieving perfect product-market fit for the Indian context. You have to ask, who is the average Indian military officer or soldier?
Where do they come from?
Exactly. Very often they come from deeply agrarian backgrounds. Rural Punjab, Haryana, the hills of Himachal or Uttarakhand. And more importantly, what do they typically do when they finally retire in their late 40s or 50s?
They go back to the land.
A huge percentage of them do. They buy a farm with their pension, or they take over managing their family's ancestral land.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Here is the massive problem. They have just spent the last 30 years being elite soldiers, not farmers.
Right.
They have incredible discipline, they have unmatched leadership skills, they can manage logistics, but they don't know the first thing about soil pH levels, or modern crop rotation, or advanced drip irrigation techniques, or how to navigate modern agricultural market linkages.
So the Agri-GPT bridges that specific knowledge gap.
Perfectly. The document lists highly specific capabilities for it. Orchard ROI modeling, farm planning comparing lease versus buy options, and rural enterprise structuring.
That is wild.
It actively helps Colonel Rohan, while he is still serving in uniform, to meticulously plan out his post-retirement career.
So he can run scenarios.
Exactly. If I buy this specific 10-acre plot in Himachal today, and I plant high-density apples, by the exact time my pension kicks in 5 years from now, the yield will be X, and my tax liability will be Y.
That is just incredibly specific and remarkably thoughtful.
It is.
It's the military institution acknowledging that, hey, the uniform comes off eventually. And it actively gives him a viable, structured mission for his second innings in life.
It's the ultimate whole-of-life approach. The portfolio also explicitly mentions family planning tools, analyzing spouse career compatibility with different postings, projecting children's higher education costs.
Treating the soldier as a complete system.
Not just a gun wielder. It deeply respects the massive sacrifices the family makes alongside the soldier.
Which naturally leads us to the final act of this life cycle. Phase 5, the veteran, retirement and legacy.
The end of the road.
Rohan officially hangs up his boots. The farewell dinner happens, the party is over.
And the very next morning, he immediately walks face first into a massive wall of bureaucracy.
The dreaded transition.
The transition from active duty to veteran is notoriously agonizingly difficult. The various benefit schemes are incredibly complex, the paperwork is seemingly endless, and suddenly, for the first time in 30 years, you do not have a dedicated staff to help you navigate it.
But the ecosystem has specific tools to catch him here. ECHS-GPT, AOH-GPT, and the Canteen Stores GPT. Now, those are absolute acronym soups. Break those down for those of you listening who might not speak the jargon.
Gladly. ECHS stands for the Ex-Servicemen Contributory Health Scheme. Healthcare, which is obviously the single most critical need for an aging veteran.
Absolutely.
AWHO is the Army Welfare Housing Organization, dealing with real estate and housing.
Yeah.
And CSD is the Canteen Stores Department.
Subsidized groceries and goods.
Essential household goods.
So how do the GPTs help?
ETHS-GPT helps instantly clarify incredibly dense eligibility rules. A veteran can ask, does this specific impaneled hospital in my city fully cover my exact heart condition? How do I accurately file a reimbursement claim if I am forced to go to a non-network private hospital in a midnight emergency?
Bypassing hours on hold on a phone line.
Exactly. AKGPT deeply analyzes the housing schemes. Is this new apartment project in Pune delayed? What are the exact penalty clauses? Is this actually a solid investment for my remaining capital?
And the Canteen Stores GPT.
Managing the complex quotas and entitlements. Am I eligible to purchase a new car this year against my specific rank quota? What is the exact paperwork required?
It sounds trivial almost to a civilian.
It might sound trivial, But for a veteran, these benefits are not gifts. They are a fundamental part of the compensation package that they earned with literal blood and sweat over decades.
Right. Accessing what is yours shouldn't be a grueling battle.
The AI completely ensures they don't get lost in the bureaucratic maze. It restores a vital bit of dignity to the retirement process.
But the documents also strongly emphasize that retirees shouldn't just be viewed as passive beneficiaries waiting in line at the clinic.
No, they term them national assets.
This is the intellectual capital component.
Think about it. A veteran like our guy Rohan now possesses 30 years of hard-won strategic experience.
You can't just buy that.
You can't. He has managed thousands of men under fire, he's overseen millions of dollars of sensitive equipment, and he has successfully handled intense crises that would completely break most top corporate CEOs.
Right.
If he just retires and sits on a porch, all of that invaluable institutional knowledge dies with him.
A massive waste.
So the ecosystem actively encourages him to fire up the Indian military GPT, and go to Keeking GPT from his home office to continue contributing.
Doing what exactly?
Writing authoritative books on military history, drafting sharp policy papers for think tanks, preparing detailed parliamentary briefs on emerging national security threats.
Oh, I see.
The AI helps him structure his complex thoughts, translates dense military jargon into digestible civilian policy language, and helps him stay highly relevant. It empowers him to remain a powerful voice in the national strategic discourse.
And mentorship is heavily mentioned here, too.
Passing the torch, preserving regimental memory. He can use the tools to coach young teenage aspirants who are just starting out.
It beautifully closes the loop.
It really does. The 70-year-old veteran directly helps the 17-year-old aspirant. The wisdom is efficiently recycled right back into the very beginning of the system.
Now, there is also a deeply psychological component mentioned in this final phase that I personally found quite touching.
The psychological continuity tools.
Yes, because the sudden loss of identity upon retirement is a massive, often unspoken crisis for many officers.
It is jarring. You go from being the colonel, a towering figure of immense authority and instant respect, to just being Mr. Rohan, another anonymous guy standing in the grocery store checkout line.
That has to hurt.
It leads to severe depression for many. So the portfolio includes a military humor GPT and, incredibly, a Seinfeld script generator in the for fun section.
I genuinely laughed out loud when I saw the Seinfeld script generator listed. It seems so utterly out of place in this incredibly serious DARPA-esque policy document.
But it isn't out of place at all. Humor is arguably the primary coping mechanism in any military culture.
It's very specific, too.
Dark, it's highly specific, it's deeply cynical. It is literally a language of its own. The military humor GPT helps actively preserve that unique banter.
It's a digital connection.
It is. It's about stress reduction.
Yeah.
It maintains that vital sense of belonging long after the uniform is off. It's a daily digital connection to the unique culture they left behind. It reminds them of the camaraderie they shared in the bunkers.
So we have walked the entire path, from the aspirant to the cadet, the subaltern to the commander, and finally, the veteran.
The full 30-year arc.
We've seen all the individual tools, but the source material emphatically ends with a synthesis section. It states very clearly that the secret sauce isn't found in any single one of these tools.
No, it's not the individual apps.
It's in the integrated workflow.
Exactly. The inter-GPT workflow, the cross-domain reasoning. That is where the actual magic of this proposal happens.
What does that look like in reality? Give me the God's eye view of this entire system working in perfect unison.
Okay, let's go back to our guy, Commander Rohan, at the peak of his career. Imagine he is sitting in a command tent, urgently planning a highly sensitive kinetic counterinsurgency operation.
High stakes.
The highest. He is the human hub. He first uses the division commander GPT to quickly plan out the complex logistics and the tactical movement, exactly where the trucks need to go, how much fuel is required, the timing of the assault.
Got it.
But simultaneously, without him even asking, the Indian military law GPT is silently running in the background, rigorously checking his drafted plan against the absolute latest rules of engagement and international legal compliance.
Wow.
It instantly flags a potential human rights issue with his unit entering a specific designated zone.
So it course corrects him legally.
Meanwhile, the cognitive security GPT is simultaneously analyzing how this exact operation might be perceived globally if a distorted video of it leaks on Twitter in real time.
Proactive PR.
It proactively suggests having a dedicated combat camera team embedded with the lead squad to document the absolute truth of the encounter. At the exact same time, the Lodestar stress test is aggressively simulating what happens if the local weather suddenly turns bad, or if the initial intel on enemy numbers is completely wrong. It essentially forces Rohan to lock in a viable Plan B and Plan C.
All of this is happening instantly.
Instantly. And maybe, just maybe, the algo trading GPT quietly pops up a tiny notification reminding him to check his newly diversified pension fund later that night, just so he doesn't have a subliminal spike of financial stress while he's literally leading his men into incoming fire.
All happening at once. A complete, tireless digital staff officer perfectly managing the immense cognitive load.
It democratizes excellence. It ensures that a commander like Rohan is never limited by his own faulty memory, his own physical fatigue, or his own unconscious biases.
It shifts him entirely.
It fully shifts him from being a trained officer, blindly following a rigid checklist, to a true thinking officer, masterfully managing a highly complex, fluid system.
It is an unbelievably comprehensive vision. It's bold, but honestly, it raises a really profound, interesting final thought for me as we wrap this up.
What's that?
If the AI successfully acts as this totally perfect staff officer, if the machine is flawlessly handling all the logic, navigating the law, routing the logistics, doing the risk assessment, drafting the paperwork.
What is left?
Exactly. What is actually left for the human?
That is the ultimate existential question of our time, isn't it? If the machine completely handles the science of war, what happens to the art of war?
What does this entire system actually demand of the human commander standing at the center of it?
I think the answer, the real truth of it, lies in the one crucial thing the AI can absolutely never do.
Which is?
The AI can calculate risk down to the decimal point. It can perfectly predict second-order consequences. It can coldly tell you exactly how to destroy a target with maximum kinetic efficiency.
But
it cannot tell you if it is morally right to do so.
Right.
An algorithm cannot display genuine moral courage. It cannot look a terrified 19-year-old soldier in the eye in the dark and give them the human confidence they need when everything around them is going violently wrong.
The ultimate burden of command.
Exactly. The human burden. Perhaps the true genius of this AI ecosystem isn't that it replaces the commander, but that it entirely frees the human to focus purely on that specific burden.
To focus on the intuition.
The intuition, the deep morality, and the visceral human leadership that absolutely no algorithm will ever be able to replicate. The AI perfectly clears the dense fog of data, precisely so the human can clearly see the moral horizon.
That is a fascinating, deeply profound look at the possible future of military service. And honestly, looking at this framework, it really makes you think about your own civilian life.
It does.
Obviously, we don't have our own personal Indian military GPTs, but we all deal with massive cognitive friction every single day.
We certainly do. We are all fighting our own daily battles with severe information overload.
So for you listening, think about it. What specific tools are you actively using to red team your own major life decisions?
Are you stress testing your own career path?
Exactly. Are you planting your own orchard for retirement right now?
Very serious questions worth asking yourself tonight.
They absolutely are. Well, that's all we have for this deep dive. Thanks so much for listening.